You've seen Ramadan's crescent traced across calendars, but the exact moment the Prophet, peace be upon him, left, this world remains shrouded in debate. Was it Monday or Tuesday, 8, 10, or even 11 of Rabiʿ al-Awwal? And why do these differences matter, beyond scholarly footnotes, to the faith and identity of millions? Tonight, we peel back 2 millennia of reverence and contention, asking, when the facts blur, what of the legacy remains clear? I'm Fakir al-Khamosh. In this series, we'll trace the conflicting reports, sirah, maghazi, oral transmissions, and examine how uncertainty over Muhammad's passing became a mirror for questions of authority, memory, and communal unity. Ibn Ishaq died. 151. A.H. records the Prophet's death in the month after Hijrah, placing it October 632 CE, but without specifying the day. His student Ibn Hisham adds tradition of Monday, but still leaves ambiguity. Al-Waqid, d. 207 A.H., cites multiple chains. Some companions say 8th Rabi Y, others 10th, even 11th. He doesn't force a single date, preferring to preserve every report, trusting later jurists to weigh them. Companion testimonies. Aisha's account. The Prophet, peace be upon him, fell ill after returning from al-Hudaybiyah. She recalls his final days, the communal prayer in the chamber, but she mentions only the day's atmosphere, not the calendar date. Her emotional recollection carries more weight for intimacy than precision. Abu Huraira's notes. He focuses on the sequence, farewell sermons, final instructions, but when pressed for a date, he defers. Allah knows best. His humility underscores a belief that spiritual truths surpass chronological detail. Regional variations, Damascus traditions, Syrian narrators lean toward 8th Rabi I, perhaps reflecting Umayyad court records that commemorated the anniversary then. Their calendars, tied to local administration, fixed that date in historical chronicles. Medinan consensus. Madina's scholars often favored 10th Rabi Wemn, aligning with city-kept registers. Inscriptions on the Prophet's mosque origin stones hint at that day, though they may reflect later restorations rather than 7th century records. When even the date of the Prophet's passing is uncertain, what does this tell us about history and memory in Islam? Does the Ummah need a precise solar timestamp, or is the collective act of remembrance itself the true legacy? In the absence of unanimous chronology, the community's devotion becomes the clock that keeps his light alive. When empires rose on Islam's horizons, rulers learned that controlling the Prophet's memorial could reinforce their own legitimacy. From Umayyad Damascus to Ottoman Istanbul, courts fixed the anniversary of his death to serve political narratives, tying sacred memory to state power. Tonight, we chart how divergent calendars became instruments of authority and ask, does remembering his departure bind us to history or to those who write it? Umayyad innovations, Muawiyah's Damascus court. The first caliph in Syria institutionalized court ceremonies around 8th Rabi Wen, emphasizing continuity from the Prophet's family's loyalty. Public prayers, charity distributions, and recitals of surah reinforced Umayyad succession claims. By anchoring their rule to his passing, they co-opted communal grief as political capital. Abbasid revisions, Baghdad's new rhythm. The Abbasids, to distinguish themselves, shifted their observance to 10 Rabi Thi. They promoted scholarly gatherings in the Great Mosque, commissioning tafsir lectures that linked prophetic virtues to Abbasid ideals of justice. Changing the date signaled a break from Umayyad excesses, yet also asserted their own custodianship of the Prophet's memory. Fatimid and Andalusian variants, Cairo's Fatimid court, Shah caliphs, added layered rituals on 11th Rabiʿ Bainain, combining mourning processions with theological disputations, asserting their claim of descent through Ali. Meanwhile, in Córdoba, Umayyad émigrés clung to 8th Rabiʿ Bun, marking dates with public poetry contests that celebrated the Prophet's legacy while spotlighting their cultural resilience. Ottoman standardization, Istanbul's imperial calendar. By the 16th century, the Ottomans codified 10 Rabiʿ wine in imperial registers and khutbah schedules. Mosque clocks were synchronized, and imperial edicts mandated communal observance. This standardization reinforced Istanbul's role as the Ummah's caliphal heart, yet it also erased regional variance, imposing a single rhythm on diverse communities. When the date of his passing is bent to political ends, are we recalling the prophet or the ambitions of those who decree remembrance? Does our collective calendar honor his spirit or mirror the shifting sands of power? In the gaps between 8, 10, and 11, we glimpse the tension between immutable legacy and mutable authority. While caliphs wrote dates in palace records, ordinary believers nurtured living traditions in their homes and neighborhoods, rituals that often diverged from official calendars. From the lantern-lit processions of rural Syria to the morning devotions in Javanese kampungs, these grassroots commemorations kept the Prophet's memory vivid in ways no decree could control. Tonight, we listen to those local voices and ask, can popular piety reclaim the Prophet's legacy when politics tries to appropriate it? Lantern processions in the Levant Syrian villages. Each Rabiʿ one, families fashion simple lanterns, metal cages housing olive oil lamps, paraded through narrow lanes. Children chant nasheeds praising the Prophet. Peace be upon him, adults distribute sweet pastries. No official date is announced. The event flows on ancestral practice. It binds kinship lines, transcends clerical calendars, and affirms communal memory over courtly precision. Java's Maulid, veiling kampung traditions. In rural Java, Maulid observances mark both birth and death anniversaries in one festival, blending them with local music, gending, and puppet theater, wayang kulit. Villagers recite makama poetry, recounting the Prophet's virtues, but the date floats across phases of the moon, chosen by village elders who consult their own lunar sightings. This adaptive rhythm privileges experiential devotion over imperial edicts. South Asian urs and urs-like gatherings, urs of local saints. Though urs typically honor Sufi saints, in some Punjab shrines, the Prophet's memory weaves into the annual Mela, Qawwal sessions, langar kitchens, humility circles. Pilgrims come not on a fixed date, but when the shrine's caretakers declare, "The Spirit is upon us." The Urs model demonstrates living commemoration, spontaneous, emotive, and resistant to top-down regulation. North African family feasts, Moroccan nafla. Some Berber families host private gatherings, naflas, in early Rabiʿ wine, sharing dates and milk, reciting short liturgies. The timing varies by family lineage. Paternal elders recall the wisdom of their forebears, adjusting dates to local harvest cycles. These intimate feasts underscore personal transmission of devotion, independent of mosque-announced anniversaries. Resistance through remembrance, underground, commemorations. In regions under strict regimes, believers meet secretly at dawn, whispering dua in unison for a few minutes before dispersing. No public announcements, no banners, yet solidarity blooms in the shared hush. Such covert gatherings assert that the Prophet's peace be upon him, memory cannot be legislated away. It lives in the quiet courage of everyday devotion. When the official story of a sacred date fractures in the mouths of the people, perhaps the true measure of remembrance is not unanimity, but diversity. These folk rituals remind us history belongs as much to hearts as to archives. The prophet's legacy survives not through imperial decrees, but through the spontaneous acts of love that no calendar can confine. Folk rituals breathe life into sacred memory, but when scholars see unsanctioned devotion, they face a choice: bless the diversity of expression or brand it heretical. From the halls of al-Azhar to the seminaries of Qom, jurists have alternately embraced, ignored, or denounced popular commemorations. Tonight, we survey these scholarly responses and ask, when guardians of doctrine clash with the people's piety, whose voice truly carries the prophet's legacy? The embrace of local practice. Al-Azhar's pragmatism, faced with the widespread Maulid processions in Egypt's countryside, Al-Azhar jurists in the 19th century issued fatwas allowing lantern parades and poetry recitals, provided they focused on praising the prophet, avoided excess, and did not introduce innovations, bid'ah, that contradict core teachings. This measured approval recognized that popular forms can reinforce love, mahabba, when rooted in sound doctrine. Iranian ulama's selective flexibility. In Shi'i seminaries, certain maraji quietly permitted family gatherings on flexible dates, viewing them as extensions of wilaya devotion. By framing folk rituals as acts of loyalty to the al-Bayt, they integrated diverse local customs into broader Shi'i identity. The warning against innovation, Hanbal. Rejectionism. Some 20th century Hanbali scholars in the Arabian Peninsula issued condemnations of Maulid celebrations as unauthorized innovation, insisting true devotion lies in adhering strictly to Quran and Sunnah without added ceremonies. They argued that popular festivals distract from authentic worship, risk idolatry, and open doors to moral laxity. Fatwa networks and public campaigns. These scholars deployed print pamphlets, radio talks, and mosque announcements to urge believers to abandon processions, lantern lighting, and communal feasts, labeling them shirk when they included excessive veneration of graves or saintly shrines. Neutrality and non-interference, Madna's custodians. Scholars at the Prophet's Mosque often adopt a stance of solemn neutrality, neither formally endorsing nor outlawing local practices abroad. They emphasize that the mosque's sanctity requires unbiased care for all visitors, leaving regulation of folk commemorations to local authorities and communities. This hands-off approach avoids alienating diverse pilgrims but leaves a vacuum in official guidance. Digital fatwa councils. Modern online juristic bodies sometimes decline to rule on localized customs, preferring to address pressing doctrinal questions like finance or gender roles. By sidelining folk rituals, they tacitly allow communities to continue, but without the comfort of scholarly affirmation or warning. The clash of authority and authenticity community. Pushback. When rigid fatwas ban beloved festivals, believers push back, organizing petition drives, inviting sympathetic scholars, or migrating rituals to private homes. This grassroots resistance exposes a tension. Lay piety asserts its own authority when institutional voices fall silent or speak harshly. Scholarly introspection. Some reformist jurists question, should scholars impose top-down uniformity or engage in dialogue to root out excesses while preserving heartfelt devotion? They propose councils where village elders and jurists co-author guidelines, marrying scholarly rigor with popular insight. Innovation or inspiration? When does an innovation cease to be a dangerous novelty and become a legitimate evolution of communal devotion. The very term bidya conceals a paradox. Every practice must begin anew. If love for the prophet finds fresh expression among the people, is it heresy or the living pulse of faith adapting to each generation's pulse? In the age of smartphones, every hearthside lantern and street parade finds its echo online, yet algorithms and influencers can warp devotion into spectacle. Viral clips splice songs, dances, and confessional selfies, while trending hashtags dictate which memory survives. Tonight, we dissect how social media amplifies, edits, and at times corrupts folk commemorations of the prophet's death, and ask, does the heart's sincerity survive the glare of the feed? Hashtags over heritage. Remember Rabiʿ. Campaigns claim unity, yet drift into date debates. Users argue 8 Rabiʿ versus number 10 Rabiʿ, drowning shared remembrance in numeric conflict. Algorithms boost controversy, not compassion. Influencer maulids. Charismatic preachers host live-streamed maulid parties, branded with corporate logos, complete with digital donation meters. Devotion merges with commerce, reshaping piety into personal brands. Viral ritual flaws, choreographed processions. In major cities, flash mob maulids choreograph dances to popular Qawwal tracks. Videos garner millions of views, yet local elders criticize their inauthenticity. Ritual reduced to viral gimmick, community memory to clickbait. Edited testimonies. Short clips of tearful recitations hide the broader context. Viewers see emotive snapshots, not communal dialogues. A single 15-second outburst can define thousands of years of tradition in a fleeting, distorted fragment. Echo chambers and exclusion regional silos. Geotagged posts create bubbles. Syrian-style maulids rarely reach Javanese feeds and vice versa. Users decry their customs as bid'ah, unaware that global diversity exists. Social media fragments unity into isolated pockets. Censorship by platform. Content moderation flags religious gatherings as unapproved events. Entire hashtags vanish overnight, erasing millions of posts. The digital gatekeepers, driven by policy, not piety, reshape what can be remembered. When devotion is performed for views rather than love, ritual risks becoming idle spectacle. If remembrance depends on likes and shares, does the believer honor the prophet or the algorithm? True memory requires presence, not performance. When public calendars clash, believers retreat behind closed doors, forming intimate networks where dates dissolve into devotion. In encrypted chats, small WhatsApp circles, and password-protected forums, communities share moon sighting updates, recite dua together at dawn, and plan quiet home ceremonies. Tonight, we peer into these hidden chains of memory and ask, can coded communion preserve authentic commemoration when official dates fracture the Ummah? WhatsApp, Majalis al-Dhikr, invite-only groups. Small clusters of families and friends form private dhikr circles on WhatsApp. Each morning of early Rabiʿ, they post brief Quranic verses and hadith reflections, avoiding debate over the exact date. The focus shifts from fixed anniversaries to shared spiritual practice, anchoring remembrance in communal heartbeats rather than calendar squares. Voice note liturgies. Instead of text debates, participants exchange short voice notes reciting salawat and dua. The human timbre adds warmth and reinforces trust. A cherished uncle's soft recitation carries more weight than any written date. Telegram. Time capsules, ephemeral channels, secret Telegram channels open for just 24 hours each Rabiʿ, broadcasting reflective essays, classical poetry, and silent meditations led by trusted scholars. Once the window closes, the channel disappears, leaving no digital record for censors, but imbuing each moment with urgency. Believers log in at appointed times, united in ephemeral homage. Encrypted calendar widgets, customized apps. Tech-savvy believers use small community-built apps that display a sliding window of possible dates, 8, 10, 11, alongside recommended devotional acts for each day. No single date is declared official. Instead, users choose the day that aligns with their local moon sighting or family tradition. This decentralized approach honors both diversity and discretion. Encrypted email newsletters, PGP-secured reflections. A few elder scholars circulate annual newsletter attachments encrypted with PGP, sharing personal anecdotes of the prophet's final days, sourced from lesser-known manuscripts. Subscribers decrypt and read in private, preserving nuance without public scrutiny. The newsletters emphasize intention over date. Every tale ends with a reminder that sincerity is the heart's true calendar. When secrecy becomes necessary for memory's survival, the act of remembrance transcends public spectacle. These private chains echo classical isnad, each link trusted, each transmission precious. In a world torn by calendar wars, the believer learns that true commemoration is not granted by majority vote or imperial decree, but forged in the quiet solidarity of the faithful. When historians bicker over dates, poets dissolve chronology into symbol and song. Across the Ummah's rich literary tapestry, writers have woven the prophet's memory into metaphors that transcend a mere number on the page. Tonight, we sample this poetic cosmos, exploring how ghazals, qasdas, and prose odes keep his presence alive beyond any calendar. Ghazals of the heart mirrored longing. South Asian poets compare the prophet's departure to the fading of the moon, a recurring motif that eludes precise timing. A 16th-century ghazal reads, "When your light withdrew, the heavens mourned, not in hours or dates, but in breaths held in awe." This breath-by-breath elegy invites readers into timeless grief, sidestepping the need for an exact date. Qasdas as living archives, lines that transcend dates. Classical Arab qasdas, odes in praise of the prophet, list his virtues rather than his death date. Poets like al-Burda and al-Busir anchor memory in moral character, compassion, justice, mercy. Reciting these at any moment becomes a form of remembrance, freeing the heart from calendar constraints. Modern prose, memory in motion, contemporary vignettes. Novels and short stories set in Rabiʿ al-Awwal often blur birth and death anniversaries into personal pilgrimages. A Syrian novella recounts a pilgrim whose understanding of the prophet peace be upon him deepens not on the correct day, but across a journey through dusty mosques and crowded marketplaces, underscoring that living memory is shaped by experience, not dates. Hybrid forms, poetry, performance, spoken word, salawat. Young performers mix nasheed with beatbox rhythms, reciting salawat, prayers upon the prophet, in venues that welcome both faith and art. These events occur whenever souls yearn, not just on prescribed anniversaries. The spontaneous rhythm of applause, not a fixed calendar, dictates celebration. Time as tribute. Poetry teaches that the true marker of reverence isn't a day enumerated, but the depth of feeling evoked. When verses stretch the moment beyond beginnings and ends, they remind us that spiritual memory lives in the soul's continuous rhythm, not in the pages of imperial logs. We've journeyed through chronicles, courts, communities, and poems, tracing how dates shift under political winds and popular wills. Now we face the ultimate lesson. that the absence of unanimity about the prophet's death date invites each believer into continuous remembrance. In this finale, we explore how living beyond calendars, making every moment an opportunity for devotion, becomes the truest homage to his legacy. Daily dicker over annual dates, heartbeat of remembrance. Rather than reserving praise for one day a year, many communities practice brief morning and evening dicker sessions, remembering the prophet's qualities: mercy, patience, compassion. This habitual rhythm transforms remembrance from a fixed ritual into a lifelong spiritual cadence, ensuring his memory pervades every sunrise and sunset. Intentional acts of charity, sadaqah, as annual maulid. Some believers choose to give a small charitable gift each month of Rabiʿ al-Awwal, feeding a family, sponsoring an orphan's education, linking generosity to the prophet's peace, be upon him birth and death months. By distributing these acts, they diffuse the memorial across seasons, making service the living monument to his life. Pilgrimage of the heart, inner journey versus outer date. True ziyarah, visitation, is an inward journey, seeking to embody prophetic virtues in daily conduct. Believers reflect on his patience when facing hardship, on his generosity when encountering need. In doing so, each trial or triumph becomes a miniature pilgrimage, independent of any calendar. Collective memory as dynamic mosaic, embracing diversity, the mosaic of 8, 10, and 11 Rabiʿ. I reflects the Ummah's rich tapestry, each tile a community's devotion. Rather than forcing uniformity, we learn to celebrate this diversity as a living emblem of unity and multiplicity. When calendars diverge, our collective mosaic remains whole, each piece honoring the prophet, peace be upon him in its own light. Certainty in uncertainty. Islam teaches that true certainty, yaqeen, transcends empirical proofs. By embracing uncertainty about dates, believers practice reliance on God, tawakkul, trusting that love and remembrance do not hinge on precision. This radical embrace of ambiguity becomes an act of faith, deepening our connection beyond what time can measure. My brothers and sisters, the prophet's life and passing invite us into a timeless covenant of love. When dates divide us, let our devotion unite us in constant remembrance, through dhikr at dawn, charity at dusk, and the moral pilgrimage of our hearts. In the sacred ambiguity of Rabiʿ al-Awwal, find not confusion, but liberation, the freedom to honor him every day, in every breath.